Streaming. Good. Which class on Saturdays? Then we have it on Monday or Tuesday? Okay. Pen or pencil out. Hand out in your notes. Oh, where'd the pen? Where did the pen go? Oh dear. There it is. And we are. And a quick attendance. Please call out here if you are here. Anose. No. Ayana. Asha. Besma. No Besma. Charlie. Wilbur. Elena O. Elena F. Felix. Jack. Lilia. Luke. Manuel. Nika. Oriah. Portia. Rowan. Right. Oh, Rowan's just going to be late. Santiago. Savannah. Sierra. Sophie. Soren. And Yash. No Yash. That's right. Okay, where do you find the DNA inside of a cell? In the nucleus. Yay. These are a selection of mammalian cells. If you're, this is true of eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic means true cells. It means they have organelles. I believe you did organelles last year. The powerhouse of the cell is the mitochondria. Afterwards, it's mitochondria. Since we're talking about DNA, has its own DNA. The theory behind its origin is that it's actually a parasite that invaded another cell, and then they evolved a symbiosis by which you give the mitochondria food, and it gives you back a form of chemical energy. And then it took over that job for the cell, and then the cell stopped doing its own thing. Chloroplasts actually have the same thing. Prokaryotic cells are like bacterium that don't have nuclei, and they just have like their DNA just like floating with everything else. Now, during cell division, what's the fancy word for cell division? Mitosis. Hands up for mitosis. Hands up for meiosis. Ah, managed a full two of you.
Can I tell you the difference?
Yes, tell me the difference.
Mitosis is like for all regular cells, and meiosis is for sexual cells.
Is for which cells?
Sexual cells.
Sexual cells. So mitosis makes a copy. Meiosis, sperm and egg.
And because the other ones have 40-something chromosomes, and the other ones have 23.
Yeah. Chromosomes. Human cells are not in a long continuous strand. You just said it. How many separate strands do we have?
46.
46. And someone else said 23, and 23 is also correct as long as you say 23 pairs. Now, in each pair of chromosomes, when they're packed for cell division, called chromosomes. Cannot write neatly at the moment, apparently. These form 23 pairs. We've already done that, so let's move on. Normally, the chromosomes in each pair are identical. Except for the sex chromosomes. If you are XX, then you tend to be. There are people who are not, depending on how their body interprets it. But normally, if your gender at birth, if you're XX, would be
Female.
female.
And XY is male.
Yeah.
When you have Down syndrome,
No, that's a completely different chromosome. You actually get a chromosome duplication for Down syndrome. There are people with like XXX chromosomes and XYY, and that will cause some other issues. Also, you can have a particular interpretation of hormones that you can be born XY, but you're morphologically, your body will present a completely female. You won't even know that your chromosomes are XY. You will be female in every single way that it matters. No doctor would have diagnosed it unless you ever had a test. The most famous example I know of that, I believe, is Jamie Lee Curtis. And now that I say that, it's probably too old for you. Do you know who Jamie Lee Curtis is? Don't know who Jamie Lee Curtis is.
what will be the difference between
Yeah, all the movies I would reference are probably way too old for you. Yeah. Oh, here's some recent pictures. Let's get some images. So Jamie Lee Curtis, this person. Yeah. Why is she green in that?
Isn't she like the sorority from
Yeah, and she was in the original Halloween, I believe. She was like, when I was young, she was like the teenage actress in horror movies type of things. One reason that would impact your life, if you have that, your uterus doesn't quite develop properly, so it often means that you can't have children. She has ended up adopting all of her children, as far as I know, but I'm not entirely sure, because of course that would be private to the family. So it's not entirely certain, but these code for slightly different things. If you were to look at it, the X chromosome, we'll go into more instruction in there, that would be the X. Whereas the Y, the codes for more of the male things looks like this. It is a poor, tiny, stunted little thing. It's missing a ton of genes that are on the X that are not on the Y. This is why, for example, the gene that you need for color vision, for your rods and cones, is on the X, but it's not on the Y. So if you are born with XY chromosomes, you have a mutated copy of that on your X, you have color blindness. This is why male students are typically more likely to have color blindness than females. If you are an XY haver, then you're more likely to have color blindness simply because you only get one copy of the gene. You don't have a backup. If you have XX chromosomes, you have a backup of that copy. And so it's possible for you to have a bad copy and also a good copy, in which case you have super color vision and you can see colors that nobody else can see. The mutated copy actually provides you with slightly different information. So even though it can't see all the different colors, it is slightly different. That combined with regular rods and cones actually allows you to tell apart color shades that other humans can't. So if you are a carrier for color blindness and you have XX chromosomes in that case, then you may have supervision. So superpowers do exist amongst you. Pardon? I don't know which chromosome that duplicates, but it's just a duplication of a chromosome. You literally have an extra chromosome.
So instead of have 46 or 47.
Yeah, yeah. And just because it's producing now too much, because it's something else being read, that interferes with the development, and things develop at different rates than they should. Okay. Oh, I should have gone to this while we were talking about it, because this would have made it a lot easier. Some terminology with this. Now, this is a nice clean diagram of it. We've got it as an XY, so you see the different types. If it was XX, you just see two of those that were the same length. This is autosomes. These are present in all body cells. Now, the reason we say these are autosomes, and we have to emphasize this is all in body cells, is because you do have one type of cell that does not contain the complete suite of chromosomes. Which cells in your body have incomplete chromosomes? Gametes. Your egg cells and your sperm cells have only half the number, because you can imagine right here, there's 46 cells. Elaine?
I'm just explaining.
But it's quite loud. So whispering, or slowly, and put up your hand. 46 in one, let's say that was a sperm cell, and you didn't have half, you had 46 in another, and you combine them together, you get one giant cell with how many? 92. And Santiago just brought up Down syndrome, which is a duplication of just one chromosome. If you had 92, that wouldn't even survive. So we have to half the number every single time in order to ensure that the offspring will be viable.
What happens if you have 45?
If you're missing an entire chromosome, you likely wouldn't even have developed. There are a few conditions in which having a little bit of an extra, like Down syndrome, it's actually incredibly lucky that you were able to survive at all, because often that disrupts the entire process. I say lucky. Often it just means that that fertilized egg just won't develop if it happened to happen. The mistakes do happen during this process. Chromosomes can get divided in half and not quite divide all the way, but usually that just means that fertilization just won't continue developing. On that, because there is an exception. As the saying goes, stubborn as a really? Stubborn as an ox. I've heard that one. Stubborn as not the one I'm looking for. But mule is the one I was looking for, but maybe that was not as common. A horse has 64 chromosomes. And a donkey has 62 chromosomes. If you combine them, so you have, say, a female donkey and a male horse, or vice versa, you get a mule. And when these divide in half and come together, how many chromosomes does it have? 33?
That's why they can
64 plus 62 divided by 2. Louder? 63. Well, I heard 65 from somewhere. I heard 61 from somewhere. I heard 67 from somewhere. And I was like, that the math was going all over the place. Probably my fault for not explaining this quite well enough. But and it's amazing. Mules have the wrong number of chromosomes for either species, and they do fine. They're actually slightly better than both of them. They're more hardy. They survive in the environment better. People like mules because they can work hard all day. Their temperament is a little off compared to either one. They're not nearly as friendly, but on the other hand, fair enough. The only reason people get mules is so that they can work them really hard. But they can't have children. Two mules together will never produce a viable offspring because there's no way to divide that in half for the sperm or the egg. So mules are born sterile, but they function perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with them, which I always thought was a miracle. When you have an image of actual chromosomes, now I did have a student who thought after I showed them this that they line up in the cell like this. They don't. You take a picture of them in a cell, all messy and all over the place, with a very powerful microscope, and then you very carefully cut them out, literally on paper. Back when we used to do it on paper, nowadays you just sort of like make a little cut and then move the image over, and then you line them up, and you can distinguish them based on size. And this is known as a karyotype. And this is where we'll look for like really easy genetic conditions like things like Down syndrome.
So when you said like the mules can't reproduce because they have 63 chromosomes and not number,
Yes.
if a human have a non-number in their chromosomes, they can.
Unlikely, but we have 46. If there was a human who did not have that number, I would have to look at that because I don't actually think that's even possible. For some now, that's if you have like in the mule case, this is like you have a whole chromosome that works. It's not a duplicate of another one. It's just you can't divide it in half. It doesn't have a spare. Whereas in something like Down syndrome, that's fine because you have an extra one, but that can still divide in half. There's no real problem with that. Oh, I thought your hand was up. Okay. Define a karyotype. It's a word we need to know. An image. Chromosomes. Actually, when you asked about humans having different amounts, I just remembered a story that I think would be useful to show you. Karyotype image of chromosomes taken during cell division under a very high power microscope. While you're writing that down, I'm just gonna There we go. Sorry, it took me a moment to find it. Oliver, right here, was a very unusual chimpanzee at a zoo that some people suggested, based on its odd behavior, preferred walking around on two legs, didn't normally go to all fours like many chimpanzees did, showed a great interest in humans and human activities, had less hair than a chimpanzee normally would, and his behavior was odd enough that some people started proposing that Oliver was actually a humanzee or a human. So if you've ever heard of ligers or tyons, those are when you have what we normally consider as two different species producing a child. So a tyon would be a male tiger and female lion. A liger is a male lion and a female tiger. You put the male species first because, of course, obviously, in the naming convention. So there were people who seriously proposed that was possibly a humanzee. It looked just different enough. And you'll still find it on Unsolved Mysteries websites where that particular picture, and you'll get little, I just saw a TikTok the other day, it was, have you heard of Oliver, the potential humanzee? They DNA tested it ages ago. Oliver's a bonobo, which is not a chimpanzee, but a related species. And they have less hair and they behave in different ways, and they have a different social structure. In many ways are different. Chimpanzees and humans have a different number of chromosomes, and in a way that is different from horses and donkeys. We rather suspect it would actually be impossible. And to this day, we've never found one, and no geneticist has ever discovered one. But before they knew that, of course, the speculation would run. But the way chromosomes work, our chromosomes can actually separate in a way to give off a viable gamete. We actually have less chromosomes than a chimpanzee or a bonobo. One of our sets of chromosomes, you can actually tell, is a fusion of chimpanzee chromosomes. You can tell where two chromosomes sometime in the past actually fused together. That discovery was one of the stepstones in terms of what is the link in our evolution between chimpanzees and humans. And we can actually find that embedded right into our chromosomes. Anyway, since we were doing that, one last thing with this one, just to be pedantic. So let's pick chromosome number 21 here. Where did you get that chromosome from? And where did you get that chromosome from? Mom. Dad. Which is why, if you happen to have XY chromosomes, you were slightly more related to your mom than your dad, because you had to inherit the Y from your dad, and it's a short and stunted thing compared to the X. Also, you have to inherit, if you have XY chromosomes, you have to inherit the Y from your dad, which means you cannot inherit the X from your dad. Male pattern baldness and a bunch of other features are actually coded for on the X chromosome, not the Y. So if you're looking at your dad and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to go bald when I'm 15, you can relax. Your dad's DNA has nothing to do with that. It's on the X. Look at your mom's dad and mom. The chromosomes on both sides there, because your mom inherited an X from her mom and an X from her dad. That's the side of the family you want to look on. So if you have XY chromosomes, you're worried about things like baldness, look at that way. I did have a student once in my class who heard that and went, oh my God, because they were so proud that their dad had flowing hair and had never gone bald. Every member on his mom's side of the family was completely bald by like 23. And then when everybody went around to look at him, we were like, but you're already balding. And he was. It was like already going back, and he just hadn't noticed until that point. Genetics is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Oh, The amount, do I have one here? The amount of DNA in your cells, if you were to take a chromosome, all 23, 46 of them, and to unwind them to a single string of chromosomes in one of your cells is 2 meters long. That's in every single one of your cells. So we have to pack it pretty densely. If you were to take the DNA out of every single one of your cells, unroll it and line it up, you would die. I have no idea how long it would be. Someone once asked. So we need to have it densely packed. Probably. I'd first have to get an estimate for how many cells, which I don't really know. Multiply by 2 meters, though. It's actually about 1.8. And here we're going to get into a lot of terminology. So, start the section. This is one of those chromosomes, chromatin, chromatid. They're all going to be very similar, and they're all going to mean slightly different parts. So, first we have the DNA double helix. The structure of which helixi. The structure of which we did number last day, so that's number 1. And we wind them around these special proteins known as histones. I took a university course on this topic in 3rd year biochemistry, and my professor was an expert on protein 3B, which was just one part of that one protein. Elena, you have a handout, don't you? Oh, right. Nope, move up. No. Yeah, no, move up. No, if you can't see, I forgot about that. Yeah, I remember that from last night. We did it right here. We got a spare one right here. You literally can't see. Right there. Right. Yeah. That's why you're going to go right there. Right there. Yeah, Elena. No, Elena. Okay, I can literally see you squinting. Right there. No, right there. As soon as you got your glasses, you can go back. No, Elena, you're delaying the whole class. Yeah, no, come on. Excellent, well done. In my Chemistry 11 class, for a month, I had a boy sit at that desk. That's the only spot he could see in the entire class. He forgot his glasses at home. They got here a week later, and then he immediately stepped on them. Took him 3 weeks to get another pair.
I lost mine.
You can go to the health center and they'll help you get another pair.
Oh, I'm already working.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay. These little proteins called histones, the DNA, they act as little spools that the DNA can round around. This protein scaffold is known as chromatin. So we got the DNA, it's wrapping around, and then they get wrapped around, and this becomes chromatin. The chromatin itself gets wrapped around, that becomes a chromatin fiber. And once it is looped and packed around, each side of it is known as a chromatid. And all together, is a chromosome. we have started up here from the smallest to the largest. At the largest point, you can see these under a microscope, provided it's powerful enough. The largest cell in the human body that you can sometimes see with the naked eye is the human egg cell. None of the other ones, everything else you need a microscope for. This is a chromatin fiber. This, when it's all packed up, we say it's condensing. So this is a chromatin fiber of chromatin fiber. Does that make more sense? So we're going to start here. Smallest to largest. Every point that we move over, we're going to zoom up. That's supposed to be a Z. Starting here, we have the longest. Will you tell me to move back up? I was trying to interpret by tone. Which one? Oh, no. Longest DNA double helix. Here at 1. Here at 5. Two chromatids. No, I should slow down, let you catch up. Go through the process again. Good, good. So this here, I'm going to try and make it look like a double helix. So this is the double helix winding around the area. Now, what are those proteins called? Histones. And one of these proteins wrapped with DNA, so just one of them, is called a nucleosome. I do, in a way, apologize for all the new terms. If you take biology 11 and 12, you are required to learn more words than if you take French 11 and 12, a whole language. Nucleosomes. I'll take to recognize that. And part of that reason is you may have sometimes heard someone say about the difficulty, for example, of physics. And physics as a science is actually the easiest science because everything's just a formula. It's like 2 seconds, define a couple terms, write a formula, you're good. Whereas in biology, there's so much stuff that you have to name all of the stuff before you can actually start doing any of the math or any of the other parts of the stuff. So one of those is nucleosomes. Our text rate is there. So going through the human bodies and particularly cells is a bit like just going through the animal kingdom. It's like, oh, that's a zebra, that's a hippo, that's a cow. Don't confuse that with a hippopotamus because hippopotamus will kill you. And then when we get to the human body, this is a nucleosome, that's a chromosome, that's a chromatid, and they all do different things. One of those is nucleosome. Yeah, that probably makes it a little easier. Now, I could fix that by pointing to many of them and then putting an S in there. Yeah. So just one of them was a nucleosome. Actually, what if I just typed it?
Why did you write on
There. Now no more complaining about my writing. So the DNA is wrapping around the histone proteins to form a nucleosome. Now, at this stage, you can see the blue, we've colored it blue in this case, the DNA. The blue DNA is wrapped around the histones, and then this becomes a pink string. And then over here, what is happening to this pink string? So doing the same process again, it's wrapping around itself to make a larger compression, so it's condensing even more. We have something that's 2 meters that we have to fit into a cell. You cannot see with the naked eye. So now that it has those proteins, it's wrapped around, they're a little bit sticky, and now they can start looping and re-looping and looping and re-looping and coiling. Oops. What if I use this? Copy. Nope. That didn't work. Ooh. Oops. Now, normally they're just in a chrome. Yes. Scaffold? Oh, they're the things that you climb on when you're building a building. You know the stuff that's on the outside of a building the builders will climb on and use to like put up walls and stuff, rods and stuff. That's called a scaffolding. So it's like the outline that everything else attaches to. Yeah. What? I was just going to ask you if you brought your crochet or knitting, and I could use the string to show this. Not sure you'd want me to use your knitting to show you that. Okay. There's another C word called centromere, but we'll leave that for next day. Thank you for your kind attention. Enjoy your next class. Thank you.